Let's take a look at some multiplication. Some of you might ask, why would we even bother looking at multiplication? We have calculators that we can just type in the numbers and it's going to give us the right answer every time. Well, one, I could give you multiple examples where the calculator doesn't give you the right answer because it's often the fault of the user. But also, it takes time to do that. And one of the struggles that I've found with students in math is that if they don't understand how to add, subtract, multiply, and divide quickly, especially smaller numbers like this, where we're working with just 1 to 12, so they're 12 times table, the understanding of that requires a little bit of practice, but once you understand that, it makes everything else that we do so much easier. When we start talking about exponents and powers, we're going to get to Pythagorean's theorem, and we're squaring numbers and taking the square root of numbers, understanding where these are and where these come from makes it a lot easier. So I'm going to recommend that you spend some time until you're good and proficient at this and getting these quickly and accurately, is that you actually draw out this table and then take your time going through, filling it out, and then practice regularly filling it out quicker and quicker and quicker. You don't have to make all the grid lines or anything. You can even just say, I'm going to practice my 2 times table. So you want to fill this out, and so you want to get to the point where you can just say 9 times 9 and say 81. You can say 6 times 4 and that's 24. You can say 12 times 12 is 144. You can say 5 times 7 is 35. You want to be able to just kind of throw those numbers out there really quickly without doing a lot of thinking. So to do that, you need to practice it. And the more you practice it, the easier it'll get. And the easier it gets, the more understanding you're going to find that you have of all the other concepts we're doing, because while I'm teaching you something new, you're not trying to figure out, well, what's the math and why we've got to figure out 4 times 4 and that's okay. Okay, so 16. Meanwhile, you've missed part of the concept and you're wasting a lot of time on calculating things that with some practice can just be instantaneous reactions. So I'm going to go ahead and fill this out. I'm going to just kind of pop over to the finished table. Then you'll have that for a reference. But again, use this as a practice kind of method. So now that I'm done here, you can see I have the whole chart filled in. If you actually pay attention to the chart, there's a couple things that kind of stand out on it that you kind of want to get yourself familiar with, especially if you look down this line right here. So these are all our perfect squares. So 1 times 1, 2 times 2, 3 times 3, 4 times 4, all the way up to 12 times 12. These are all our perfect squares. We work with these a lot in when we get into Pythagorean theorem and some of our calculations. So being able to calculate those quickly is good. And not only do you want to know this table in the multiplication sense, but you want to know it in the division sense too. Especially when you move into grade 10 topics. What you're going to be doing a lot of is taking these numbers and dividing them and asking questions like, what number divides into both 48 and 32? And we need to know this table forwards and backwards to be able to do that. So while you can always have a table on hand or you can have a calculator, that time it takes to, okay, well, where's that 48 and 32? And okay, here's 48 and 32. It's in the 4 column, so 4 divides into both of those. Is there any other ones though? Well, there's a 48 and 32 in the 8 column, so there's another one. And okay, no. So knowing those right away, that took a lot of time, where knowing your multiplication facts, that 48 and 32 are both multiples of 8 and 4 will make this a lot quicker for you and save you a lot of time. So I really recommend practicing this when you get some time. You know, you could be practicing maybe 5 minutes a day until you really start to understand it, and it will make your math life easier.